The Republicans who want to be president all have a Reagan problem. They just don't realize it. Even though the American people are rejecting what Reagan's trickle-down economics has done to the country, both Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich are trying to claim the Reagan mantle.
I am, in fact, the legitimate heir of the Reagan movement, not some liberal from Massachusetts.
I will fight with all my energy to keep America the strong nation it's been and the hope of the earth and the shining city on a hill.
Here's the problem. Reagan's shining city on the hill turned out to be a gated community for the 1%. 30 years of Reaganomics has made the income for the top 1% skyrocket up 275%, while the poor has seen their income remain stagnant. Now Republicans are trying to defend this horrific record the same way that Reagan did, even using his talking points.
Since when do we in America accept this alien and discredited theory of social and class warfare? Since when do we in America endorse the politics of envy and division?
Sound familiar? We've heard this kind of nonsense from Romney and the others for months now. But the president is hitting back.
You can call this class warfare all you want. But asking a billionaire to pay at least as much as his secretary in taxes? Most Americans would call that common sense. When Americans talk about folks like me paying my fair share of taxes, it's not because they envy the rich.
Joining me now is Bob Franklin, a syndicated columnist, and with features, King Features, and one who has known Mr. Gingrich for a long time and covered him for an extensive period of time, and Cynthia Tucker, Pulitzer Prize-winning syndicated columnist and now a visiting professor of journalism at the University of Georgia. She recently wrote a column about class warfare and the GOP's Reagan problem. Let me start with you, Cynthia. Does Romney really think this recycled Reagan talking points will hide the fact that he's a 1%er as a candidate?
Well, I think he really does think this strategy will work, Reverend. I think that's the reason he keeps using it. But he lives in a bubble. He talks about earning $374,000 in 1 year in speaking fees as not very much. You know, when he released his income taxes, he said, well, most of what I earned was income from investments, but then I earned a little from speaking fees, not very much. That turns out to be more than $374,000, more than 7 years' salary for the average American. So when he talks about class warfare, yes, Reverend, he's trying to hide the fact that he doesn't have anything to offer, not just the poor, but the squeezed working class, the middle class, people who are struggling to stay afloat, even though they're working every day.
Now, Bob, Congressman Paul Ryan on Fox News Sunday wasn't backing down from Medicare changes in the budget. Let me show you what he says.
Will it be the same plan, or will there be something new?
We're going to be working off it. We're not going backwards or going forwards. We're not backing off of any of our ideas, any of our solutions.
So, Bob, despite the fact that every poll shows the majority of Americans, and in many cases the majority of Republicans, don't want to see this continued inequality in terms of the economics of this country, in terms of how people have income inequality and opportunity gaps, he's saying we're not changing anything. They want to protect tax cuts for the rich and change everything else for everyone else. And they're not backing down.
So when people talk about inequality in this country, there is always somebody who will scream class warfare, which I think is an interesting term because it has sort of a Marxist connotation. And they're suggesting that the people who are advocating changes in this inequality are some sort of communists. That's sort of the implication. It's a little word game that they play. But they're sort of like the greedy fool who kills the hen that lays the golden egg. They are undermining our society. And here's why. we have a form of government that requires a certain sense of teamwork. Everybody has to feel like he is benefiting from being part of the team. More and more Americans are realizing that the team, in fact, is not working on their behalf. It's only working on behalf of a few people. They're being had. And if they start abandoning the team, then the whole operation is going to frazzle apart. And that seems to be what we could look forward to.
Now, Cynthia, if you look at America's views on these policies that started with Reagan and it continued, it created and it continues now, this income inequality, 74% say that income inequality is a problem. 77% corporations and the rich have too much power. 66% say class conflict between the rich and the poor. So we're saying the majority of Americans are trying to engage in class warfare. And let me read you this. Romney and his GOP rivals have refused to concede that the U.S. is not a nation where anyone can get ahead, where the rewards are unlimited if you work hard enough, where the opportunities are there for the taking. I'm reading Cynthia to Cynthia. You said that. Explain.
I did, Reverend L. And I also said that I don't think that yelling class warfare is going to work this time. Because people know that if there is some kind of class warfare being waged, it's waged against the working class. It's being waged against the middle class. It's old rhetoric, stale rhetoric. It may have worked for a while when Reagan was in office, but I just don't think it works anymore. People have come to understand, and Occupy Wall Street was one of the forces that helped people understand that there is a war being waged on the average American working person. And it's benefiting the rich. It's benefiting people like Mitt Romney. So I don't think yelling class warfare is going to work for them nearly as well as they hope.
Now, Bob, there are some that are even threatening, and I'm going to talk more about this later in this show, but threatening that the President Obama, better not let Bush tax cuts expire. And they're arguing that we need those tax cuts. They create jobs. Well, we went to Rev's little research department, and let me show you what we came up with. From 2001 to 2007, during the Bush tax cuts, we had 0.6% job growth, the worst since 1945. We can have different opinions, Bob. We can have different facts. The fact is the rich got the tax cuts and did not create even 1% job growth. They put the money in their pocket, Bob.
Well, you keep on talking facts, Al, and as Ronald Reagan said, there you go again. The point is that they're still relying on that old discredited argument that a rising tide lifts all boats, which is to say that if the wealthy get money, then everybody will be uplifted. Truth of the matter is, as that study points out, that a rising tide really swamps just about everybody's boats but a few people.
Especially if your boat is already underwater when you start rising.
That's right.
Bob Franklin, Cynthia Tucker, thanks for your time tonight.